On a crisp October morning in 2018, a father and his teenage son set off for what should have been a simple 3-day camping trip in the Great Smoky Mountains. David Martinez was no amateur. He had decades of hiking experience, had led scout troops through the toughest trails, and knew these woods like the back of his hand. His 6-year-old son Jake had been buzzing with excitement, eager to spend time under the canopy of trees, away from school and screens, bonding with his dad in the wilderness. They promised to be home by Sunday evening, but that promise was never kept. When the sun dipped below the horizon on the 15th of October and the driveway remained empty, Jake's mother, Sarah, felt the kind of dread only a parent can know. Phone calls went unanswered. The truck was still parked at the trailhead, keys in the ignition. Search dogs picked up their scent for only a short stretch before it vanished completely, swallowed by the forest. What really happened in the Smoky Mountains? For 5 long years, no one knew, until a drone, flying high above the dense canopy, captured something hidden deep in the valley, something that would rewrite everything people thought they knew about this mystery. David Martinez was a man people trusted in the outdoors. He had grown up fishing streams in North Carolina, leading youth groups through the Appalachian trails, and priding himself on being prepared for any emergency. His teenage son, Jake, was his shadow, curious, adventurous, with that restless energy only a 16-year-old boy could have. Sarah, David's ex-wife, worried from a distance. She had seen how unpredictable life with David could be, but she never imagined their son would vanish under his care. When David and Jake didn't return home, Sarah alerted authorities immediately. By sunrise, rescue teams were combing the Smokies. Helicopters circled above the endless canopy, search dogs traced faint scents, and volunteers fanned out with maps and radios. For days, the woods echoed with calls of their names. But each lead dissolved into nothing. No footprints, no campsite, no discarded gear. It was as if father and son had been swallowed whole by the mountain itself. The weather turned against them. Fog rolled through valleys, cold rain soaked searchers, and nights dipped into freezing temperatures. Hope slipped further with every passing hour. Whispers began circulating. Had they gotten lost? Or had David wanted to disappear? As weeks turned into months, the clean portrait of David began to blur. Court records showed unpaid child support. Old friends admitted he had borrowed money he never repaid. A pending court date for financial disputes painted a picture of a man under crushing pressure. Insurance policies added another layer of suspicion. Some began to ask, was this really a tragic accident or an intentional vanishing act? Sarah was torn between grief and anger. On some days, she believed David had led Jake into danger recklessly. On others, she clung to the faint hope that maybe he was hiding, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Miguel, David's brother, defended him passionately, insisting David would never abandon his son. The family was split, their pain amplified by the lack of answers. The community, too, grew divided. Flyers hung on telephone poles faded in the sun, replaced by debates at diners and church gatherings. To some, David was a victim of misfortune, a man failed by nature. To others, he was selfish, dragging an innocent boy into his spiral of troubles. Years passed. Each new sighting turned out to be a dead end. Another man mistaken for David. Another cruel trick of hope. The story of the Martinez disappearance became both legend and wound, a riddle locals retold with a shake of the head. It wasn't until 2023 that a break finally came by chance, not by search. Dr. Rebecca Chen, a geologist testing drone imaging technology, spotted something odd in an isolated valley deep within the Smokies. Against the natural lines of trees and rocks, there were shapes too straight, too deliberate. Within days, investigators hiked in. What they found stunned everyone. Hidden under brush and tarps was a crude but organized campsite. Tools, makeshift shelters, and most haunting of all, a weather-worn journal, sealed in a waterproof bag. It was David's handwriting. The entries revealed everything. David had indeed planned to disappear, driven by debts, court battles, and a desperate desire to start over. He had dragged Jake along, convincing himself survival in the wilderness was their chance at freedom. For 5 months, they lived off the land, rationing supplies, building shelters, trying to carve out an existence in the unforgiving wild. But tragedy struck. Jake fell while gathering wood, suffering an injury too severe to recover from. The journal detailed David's frantic attempts to save him, his heartbreak as Jake slipped away. In the final pages, David confessed his despair, admitting he could no longer endure the guilt or the isolation. With chilling clarity, he wrote of his decision to end his own life. The discovery closed one chapter, but opened another. For Sarah, the journal was both an answer and a curse. The Smoky Mountains had not claimed them by chance. It had been David's fateful choice all along. 5 years after David and Jake first disappeared into the Smoky Mountains, their story finally reached its somber conclusion. When the truth became public, the community reacted with a mix of grief and judgment. Some mourned them both, seeing only the tragedy of a father and son lost in the wilderness. Others whispered of David's choices, his debts, his escape, and the terrible price his son paid for it. For Sarah, the truth was unbearable, yet strangely clarifying. She no longer had to live with uncertainty, but closure came with its own sharp edges. In the years that followed, Sarah refused to let despair define her. She turned her pain into purpose, speaking publicly about mental health, the crushing weight of financial stress, and the silent battles many families face. With support from friends and community leaders, she established a scholarship fund in Jake's name, giving other young people the opportunities her son never lived to see. Her message was simple but powerful. Sometimes the strongest act of survival is asking for help before the burden becomes too heavy. The funeral, held nearly half a decade after their disappearance, was both a farewell and a reckoning. It brought together neighbors, family, and strangers who had followed the mystery from the beginning. What remained was a lesson about desperation, resilience, and the importance of compassion in the face of human failure. If stories like this resonate with you, join our community here. Subscribe to the channel for more true accounts that uncover not just mysteries, but the deeper lessons they leave behind.